Welcome everybody again to this core lecture on nursing leadership and management. So for today, I want to emphasize that stepping into a managerial role requires moving beyond direct bedside clinical care into organizational coordination, team mentorship, and ethical oversight. This lecture will focus on legal accountabilities, nursing jurisprudence, professional ethics, and organizational liability grounded on the principles of our official references, Luan Singh and Ray and Kitson. Luan Singh actually focused on the legal accountabilities, nursing jurisprudence, professional ethics, and organizational liability. While on the practical transition, building self-efficacy, reflective practice, emotional confidence, and supporting staff are grounded on the principles of Ray and Kitson. Transitioning from individual nursing interventions to systematic multi-patient unit management is one of the core principles and function of management. Management in healthcare is not merely administrative paperwork, but it is a life-saving operational framework. Effective management creates a safe environment where bedside nurses can perform at their highest standard without structural bottlenecks. Management is the structured process of working with and through clinical personnel to achieve organizational goals. In our area or in healthcare, classical management principles take a very important role because lives of our patients depend on efficiency, safety, and accountability. Now, let us go on discussing the four core management functions. We have the planning, organizing, directing or leading, and controlling. Now, when we say planning, this is basically about determining unit objectives and setting operational roadmaps. Example of this will be staffing ratio, resource allocation, and also emergency preparedness. While organizing is focused on assigning duties, structuring patient assignment models like total patient care versus modular nursing, and ensuring material resources are available. Directing or leading means guiding, motivating, and supervising staff through effective communication, team coordination, and conflict management. Controlling means evaluating outcomes against established standards of care, conducting quality management audits, and implementing corrective measures when gaps are present. Moving forward or continuing on the four core functions of management, which are planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Planning means setting short-term shift goals. That includes patient to nurse ratio, emergency checking of emergency equipment, and long-term operational targets. Organizing is also about structuring clinical care delivery models like primary care versus team nursing, and delegating task loads and organizing material supplies for immediate patient access. While lastly, directing and controlling is focused on guiding and motivating staff through active coaching while controlling care quality through routine chart audits. KPI monitoring and compliance evaluations are also included in directing and controlling. Planning and resource allocation includes equity-based staffing, material management, and proactive unit contingencies. Workload balance directly impacts patient morbidity and nurse burnout. According to our sources, planning protects nurses legally by preventing understaffed, unsafe environment, while we also need to emphasize that adequate resourcing gives nurses the confidence to practice safely. So, effective operational management requires balancing workload equity with nurse competency. It includes equity-based staffing, meaning matching patient dependency levels with staff skills to prevent burnout and clinical errors. Second is material resource management. This means maintaining inventory levels for essential medical devices and clinical consumables. And lastly, proactive contingency planning, which includes preparing emergency protocols for sudden staffing surges or patient census spikes or increase. Now, Module 2 is about competencies and qualities of a nurse leader. Here, we are going to discuss personal qualities versus administrative competencies. So, to effectively lead, a nurse must balance interpersonal leadership skills with formal administrative competencies. One must possess administrative acumen or managing tasks while displaying strong emotional intelligence and leadership qualities, which actually is very useful in inspiring people. Okay, self-efficacy and reflective practice is about building internal confidence and using reflective framework. Developing self-efficacy, according to Ray and Kitson, represents a nurse manager's internal confidence in their capability to execute leadership tasks. This also includes transitioning into leadership requires overcoming role ambiguity through structured skill updating, decision making, mastery, and active peer support. He also explained how beginning nurse managers often experience imposter phenomenon. Developing self-efficacy is the firm belief in one's capacity to handle unique challenges or challenges in the area that requires ongoing practice, peer debriefing, and skill updating. Reflective leadership practice is about utilizing structured reflection models, which allows beginning nurse managers to analyze challenging shift events, evaluate interpersonal interactions, acknowledge areas for growth, and build psychological resilience. Okay, reflective practice, as discussed in the reflective frameworks by Gibbs or Driscoll, here beginning leaders is required to habitually ask the questions, what happened? What was I feeling? What worked? Or what will I do next? These questions guide the managers to be able to analyze accurately and effectively the situations or the current situations that they are into. Ethical and legal governance is about jurisprudential confidence or competence in jurisprudence, informed consent advocacy, and liability mitigations. According to the work of Luan Singh, he discussed the legal boundaries of nursing practice, where nurse managers are responsible not only for their own actions, but also for supervisory oversight. Managers must enforce accurate, contemporaneous medical record documentation. They also act as patient advocates regarding informed consent and confidentiality, ensuring non-maleficence, beneficence, and justice across all care delivery. So when we talk of jurisprudence competence, here a nurse leader must operate strictly within legal parameters, demonstrating deep familiarity with the nursing law, malpractice standards, and institutional standards of care. The manager's core responsibilities include safeguarding patient autonomy, ensuring informed consent integrity, maintaining patient confidentiality, and maintaining clear liability boundaries across the healthcare team. Now, let's move forward to delegation competence in practice. In this slide, we are going to talk about the 5 rights of safe delegation. This includes the right task, the right circumstance, the right person, the right direction or communication, and the right supervision or evaluation. Delegation is one of the most legally sensitive areas for managers. Here, we are going to talk about tasks that can be delegated to assist personnel or those who are newly hired, about accountability for their individual outcomes that will remain with the delegating professional nurse, or that the accountability will remain to the senior nurse who delegated the task to a more junior nurse. Okay, I would like to reiterate here that checking state or National Practice Act is very important to ensure your delegation or that delegating stays within your legal limits. Okay. Right task and circumstance means assessing clinical stability. The right person can be done by verifying competency and legal scope, while right direction and supervision is about clear instructions and audit. Now, what are the roles and responsibilities of a beginning nurse leader? So when stepping into a charge nurse position, or a team leader, or a novice manager role, your daily operational duties shift towards oversight, coordination, and protection of standard of care. Now, let's talk about clinical oversight and safe delegation. What are the 5 rights of delegation? We ensure the right task is assigned under the right circumstance to the right person with the right direction or communication and the right supervision or evaluation. Okay. Our priority here is to continuously re-evaluate your area for acuity, to reassign staff or resources as patient condition fluctuates or increase. The second is the legal safeguards and risk management. Okay. It's about documentation and charting. This is focused on auditing team documentation to ensure compliance with legal and ethical standards. So here, we are focused on setting the objectives, or working towards our objectives and accurate charting. Informed consent is also part of legal and ethical advocacy. Informed consent advocacy means ensuring that procedural consent is properly obtained by the performing nurse or any healthcare team, with the nurse validating patient comprehension rather than taking over the provider's duty or other nurse's duty. Another part of legal and ethical advocacy is the incident management. This is focused on identifying near misses or adverse events and reporting them through proper institutional channels without fear of punitive measures to foster safety culture. Okay. The third one is supportive onboarding or mentoring. Supportive preceptorship and supportive coaching to returnees means recognizing that these newly hired nurses or the newly transferred nurses or return to practice nurses will require structured onboarding to regain operational confidence. Supporting onboarding and mentorship, aside from supporting preceptorship, is also about building unit culture. This means fostering a collaborative environment that value peer support, continuous learning, and staff well-being to prevent burnout. Now, this is about development path of a beginner leader. There are 4 sequential stages here, which are orientation, supervision, evaluation, and mentorship. Okay. This will guide you through your career trajectory. When we say orientation, this is about mastering unit protocols, legal scope of practice, and administrative software. This is grounding in unit protocols and legal standards. The next is supervision or directing shift activities, coordinating tasks, and practicing safe delegation. Okay. This is all supervision is focused on developing hands-on confidence in coordinating team members. The third evaluation is conducting shift handovers, clinical audits, and giving constructive feedback. Evaluation is learning how to deliver objective, constructive feedback during performance reviews and shift debriefing. Now, the last one is mentorship, which means promoting psychological safety, staff well-being, and continuous peer learning. Okay. Mentorship is creating psychological safety on the area or unit to retain talent or your staff and prevent burnout. To effectively lead, a nurse must balance interpersonal leadership skills with formal administrative competencies. Okay. The first one is professional self-efficacy and competence. So self-efficacy and professional identity includes bridging the gap, reflective practice, and adaptability. Bridging the gap is developing self-efficacy. So this is the internal belief in one's capability to execute actions required to manage clinical scenarios. Reflective practice is using structured reflection to evaluate shift performance, acknowledge areas of vulnerability, and build genuine practice confidence. Adaptability means navigating rapid changes in the area dynamics, healthcare technologies, and policy updates smoothly. Now, the third is ethical and legal guidance. Legal and ethical governance is a thorough understanding of nursing legislation, professional codes of ethics, and institutional standards. Under accountability and advocacy, this means acting as a professional safeguard for patient autonomy, informed consent, and confidential health records while mitigating legal liability for the team. Okay. It also covers emotional and communication competencies, which include active listening and clear communication. These are essential for resolving conflict among multidisciplinary teams and preventing clinical errors. And lastly, empathy and peer support, which means cultivating psychological safety so new staff will feel supported when seeking guidance or speaking up about their safety concerns. Let's move forward to core qualities in action. Key concepts here are compassion, clinical coordination, and reflective scholarship. Compassionate mentor cultivates empathy and emotional intelligence to support team well-being and alleviate burnout. Clinical coordinator fosters multidisciplinary communication and smooth clinical handovers across healthcare tiers, while reflective scholar engages in self-assessment to continuously upgrade administrative and clinical competencies. These three attributes complement each other. Empathy prevents toxic work environments. Interdisciplinary coordination ensures interprofessional trust, like working effectively with doctors or other healthcare team members, while continuous reflection ensures lifelong learning and professional growth. Now, let us compare management and leadership roles. Management is on structure, order, and compliance, while leadership is on culture, trust, and empowerment. Okay, let's start with the primary objective. Managerial focus is on operational order, efficiency, and compliance. Leadership focus is on team empowerment, vision, and culture. The source of power of managerial is formal institutional authority and position, while for leadership, it's interpersonal trust, influence, and rapport. Core activities of managerial focus is on budgeting, scheduling, and chart audit, while leadership focus is on mentoring, motivating, and driving change. Success metric of managerial focus is on meeting institutional standards and KPIs, while leadership focus is on high team morale, confidence, and retention. Okay. A beginning nurse manager must execute both roles simultaneously. Without management, the unit will suffer from chaos and legal vulnerability. Without leadership, the team will suffer from low morale, turnover, and burnout. So, to conclude, the session is about exceptional nurse leaders. exceptional nurse leaders harmonize legal and ethical diligence with reflective, empathetic, human connection, and self-efficacy. So, a successful nurse leader balances rigorous adherence to legal and ethical standards with reflective, compassionate, and self-efficacious leadership. Management is not merely administrative oversight, but it is the active creation of a safe environment for both patients and healthcare personnel. So that concludes our discussion or our lecture for today. Again, thank you very much for listening.